was it was the first university to open its doors to the older population way back in 1990. We realised there was a very well-educated, keen older population in Glasgow that wanted to pick up and keep learning. And so it's developed now into really a major exercise, and it's really been a bit stymied by the fact that people can't come into the building anymore. You know, since March, we've been not having any live classes for anybody. So it was decided very quickly to get everybody onto Zoom, and we've offered introductory classes to the students how to get onto Zoom and how to attend classes and participate in classes. So I sort of embraced that as well. Although I've been teaching there for a long time, I've always been interested in technology and thought, well, I'm not going to let this beat me. And I think it's really important that our students aren't sort of abandoned. So my theme is about choosing happiness, and it's one of the subjects that's been very widely researched in the course of the last 20 years. Before that, all the effort was put into looking at what's wrong with people when they're depressed. And so it's really interesting, and I think uplifting, to find out there's so much knowledge now about how we can lift our mood, not by 1000%, but shift our consciousness into a more light-hearted way of looking at life. I've actually created a website, but what I'll do is I'll share it with you just now and let you see how you can access this also. I have a whole number of websites for all my classes, and this is a class I have called Psychology to the Rescue. What I'm going to cover is some of the interesting research work that's been done by an English psychiatrist called Robert Holden. You may not have heard of him, but he is actually specialized in the study of happiness. And I've got a nice little clip, video clip of him talking about some of the things people think about happiness and some of the barriers to being happier. You can also watch this program that was made a number of years ago. It is divided into 4 parts, and later yourself, if you wish to, you can actually have a look at the actual film that was made of the bit of research I'm going to talk about. There's also a nice bit of little 3-minute meditation there that you can do. It's on the internet, and I'll finish off with a piece of I'll tell you a little bit about our classes, because it doesn't really matter where you are in the world. You can have a look at our classes and see if there's anything there you'd like to participate in. And the new classes begin in January. First of all, Robert Holden. This is a picture of him, of his clinic, where they're all lying on the floor and they're having a laugh. And so his first clinics were called laughter clinics, and they were not for people with deep, really serious, terrible depressive problems, but for people who were just feeling they weren't in very good spirits. They were finding life was getting on top of them, and they felt they were directed to this clinic in the NHS as a way of helping to boost their mood. And Robert Holden talks about laughter as internal aerobics, and I think that's a great term. You know, when we have a good laugh and have some fun, we're actually, our organs inside are getting a good shake up. And he also says there, I've quoted him, I made a study of ozone-friendly non-chemicals that you can overdose on and feel happier. Anybody have an idea of some of these brain chemicals that make us feel good? You know the name of some of them?
Dopamine?
Dopamine, absolutely. Dopamine's almost the most important one. When you eat a chocolate bar, you're probably generating dopamine, or you're anticipating something really pleasurable that you're going to do. your dopamine's firing. What about runners? What is it that is generated by people who do a lot of exercise?
Endorphins.
Endorphins, yes. So sometimes find people, they actually don't feel well, they're not out doing their running or whatever it is they're doing. So it's a very good thing in most cases, but if it's over the top, then it can be something that's a problem. But generally, when we've got these good chemicals in our brain, we're feeling, you can't feel sad and have dopamine in your system. So it's how do we create more dopamine in our system? How do we have more good things in the day? So this was the idea behind his clinic, that you actually got people dopamine systems operating and people realizing they can actually trigger your own dopamine system, and it's different for everybody. So this is now a very erudite American scientist, Richard Davidson, who's at the cutting edge of studying happiness as a scientific pursuit. And he did a lot of work, he's done a lot of work with, for example, the monks who do a lot of meditation. He went out to India and he managed to persuade some monks to come back with him and examine their brains, scan their brains to see what was happening in their brains, that they seemed to have this serenity. And he discovered lots of different things that have been reinforced. It's not just a few studies. He now knows that the left prefrontal lobe of your brain is where you generate happiness. And so the monks, they found, had enlarged left prefrontal lobes. And this is one way of measuring a person's state of mind, to look at the prefrontal lobes. What's happening there? Is there good blood flow there? And happiness lights up, if you like, within a scanner, the left prefrontal lobe. So that's where your happiness presides in your brain. Here's a little graph showing Caroline after just 3 weeks training. Now, Caroline's situation was interesting. She'd been working in a restaurant. She loved it. She was meeting people all the time. She was had a full life. She wasn't married, but she had an active great social life. And her mother became increasingly frail, and she decided to give up work to look after her mother. And she found she was missing her job, she was missing company. She was just felt her life seemed to be ebbing away from her social life, her enjoyment of life was just lowering. So this is her being told to come to this clinic and see if they could, if she could make a difference, so she could manage better, not begin to get into a sort of depressed state. She's very low. She's down at 40 below. So she's sinking down here. She's going down slightly, and then she begins to go up very rapidly. And then she's going up. And at the end of week 3, you can see she's crossed up to about 60. So that's an amazing transition for her. And she was practicing the things that Robert Holden was actually recommending. The people, they went home, and you'll see in the video, they went home and they were asked to do certain things every day. They were playing, for example, they were being tapes of laughter. So just sort of listening to laughter. They were told to find a space of time for themselves and to do something that they really enjoyed. There was a whole raft of things. So I'm going to show you a little clip now from Robert Holden talking about happiness. What he's trying to identify is why some people don't become happier. Would anyone like to hazard a guess why they why some people have fears about happiness?
Well, yes, I can a little bit. I think people are sometimes afraid that they can lose that happiness, that it might be fleeting. And also it could be a double-edged sword. Being in a different state, feeling happier could also bring up other things in their life. So we all fear what we don't know, even if it sounds like it's something good.
Yeah, that's right. It's sort of uncertainty. Any other sort of possible theories why somebody might feel that they're not happiness is not for them?
Maybe they feel like they don't deserve it.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yes, that somehow You know, we're brought up differently as children, and sometimes we've maybe been the naughty one. or something's gone wrong. So it's not that we've had bad parents, but our parents are just human beings like anybody else, and they maybe feel that you've got to somehow earn it, and they haven't earned it. So they're often people with low self-esteem think, well, why I'm not a good person. There can all sorts of almost like subconscious reasons why people think that happiness is not for them.
In this video, I want to share with you 3 major fears of happiness that hold so many of us back. I'm also going to share with you 1 big key to happiness that all happy people know and practice. I'd like to share with you now 3 major fears of happiness. Fear number 1, the fear that happiness is somewhere else. This is the fear that causes us to search for happiness. The more identified we are with the search for happiness, the more we live in the not now. And also the more we experience the fear that's sometimes referred to as FOMO, F-O-M-O, the fear of missing out. You know, the more we search for happiness, the more we become convinced that the grass is greener somewhere else. But the whole point about the green grass theory is that the grass is greenest wherever you water it the most. Get it? Fear number 2, happiness is selfish. Growing up, were you ever cautioned about being too happy and that maybe your happiness was somehow selfish? You know, for a lot of us, we carry this fear that happiness is selfish. And yet I'd have to say, for me, this fear is a theoretical fear. In other words, it isn't really true. I've done a lot of research about this fear. I've asked hundreds of people over the years to really examine this fear in detail. This is how I do it. I ask people to name 3 mostly happy people in their life, and also 3 mostly unhappy people in their life. I then ask them to judge which of these people are mostly selfish, which means that they're not really interested in anybody else's happiness, they're only concerned with their own, and also which of these people are unselfish. In other words, they really are interested and concerned about everybody else's happiness. And the research shows me that 85% of the people who are judged mostly happy demonstrate a natural, loving, consistent interest in everybody else's happiness. And I honestly believe that just makes sense, doesn't it? Because I think happiness fundamentally is love-based. Indeed, there's a lot of research which shows that happiness and altruism really do go hand in hand. The happier you are, the more you want to share it. And for this reason, I honestly believe that happiness is not selfish. On the contrary, I think happiness helps you to be a more selfless, a more generous, and a more loving person along the way. Happiness and love, they're like twins. They work off each other. They're essentially the same thing, I believe. Fear number 3, the fear of too much happiness. Most people have an upper limit around how much happiness is okay and how much happiness is too good to be true. One of my favorite workshops that I run from time to time is called How to Be So Happy You Almost Feel Guilty But Not Quite. And in this workshop, we look at the underlying fear here, which is the fear that you have to deserve happiness. If you believe you have to deserve happiness, then you will tell yourself somehow that you have to earn it, work for it, struggle for it, sacrifice for it, suffer for it in some way. And this causes us to unconsciously limit our happiness and even sabotage our happiness. Essentially, we're afraid that if we're too happy, we will get a visit from the karma police who are going to tell us that it's time to pay for our happiness. The truth is, however, that happiness is a thoroughly non-deserving issue. Happiness isn't something you deserve, happiness is something you accept. Happiness is a quality of your true nature, and for that reason, it's something that you tap into. You don't pay for it, you choose it. So now let's talk about the 1 big key to happiness that all happy people know and practice.
Going to stop it there for a moment and ask you, what do you think that might be the big key to happiness?
Well, since I'm writing something on this topic, and my big key to happiness, I think, is gratitude. I think that it's impossible to be grateful and not be happy, at the same time. So for me, it's gratitude, something I've just written on.
Yes,
gratitude for me.
I absolutely agree with you. To be grateful for, we tend to take for granted all the things that we have and just be sad at the things that we haven't got. So gratitude makes you much more aware of all the good things that have been in your life and that are in your life. I agree with you. It's becoming more and more important. It's being researched now too, how it actually affects the brain chemicals and again affects your well-being. So that's a very good point. Anybody else got another?
Yes, if
Yeah.
I could follow on with that.
Yeah.
One of my areas of interest right now as a mental health therapist
Mhm.
is the differences and similarities of gratitude and happiness. And I've had my own personal gratitude practice now for a number of years. There's a man called David Stindl Rast who has talked a lot about gratitude and done TED Talks, all kinds of things like that.
Yeah.
He points out that we all share the same essential goal, to be happy, and gratitude provides the key. We all know people who have lots of misfortunes and that we ourselves would not want to have, and they are deeply happy. They radiate happiness, he says. Why are they like this? Because they are grateful. It is not happiness that makes us grateful, but it is gratefulness that makes us happy.
That's great.
And I have to say that has proven true in my life. I can always be grateful. I may not necessarily be happy all the time. For example, when my mother died very suddenly, my club members know, and it was a huge problem. I found little things that made me very grateful. The people who came and helped, and David Stindl Rast says, not every moment is joyful, or you could say happy, but there is joy in every moment.
Yeah.
And I've undergone many, 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 many surgeries, and I find myself sitting there in the curtain before they wheel you in to the operating theater. I'm not happy, but I'm grateful. I sit there and I just think to myself, I'm grateful that, I'm in a country where I can have this surgery. I'm grateful for whatever. And I find that happiness comes from gratitude. This is just my own personal opinion. Gratitude is a way of life.
Yeah.
Gratitude, and out of that comes happiness.
Yeah, it's certainly a very, very powerful thing. I've got a little app on my phone, and it pings in the morning, and it asks you to, what good things do you want to happen today? So it helps to focus your mind on not all the sort of chores and the difficult things, but what good, or you can have that at night even, I think, what are the 3 good things that have happened today out of maybe a bad day, but there can still be lovely little moments of kindness. And
I think that's a wonderful way to start. I've tried to expand that in my own practice, where instead of, just the 3 things and so on, because for me, I wasn't being grateful enough in just that 5 minutes, is to live a life at every moment as I can, grateful.
Yeah.
So it's a way of life.
It is, and we're coming to that as a sort of incorporated in a quote. Just because of time, I'd like to hear from more of you, but I think I'll let the film, a little bit of film run on. There's a few more minutes of it where he's beginning to give, he's obviously got his theoretical perspective on it, but it incorporates a lot of these ideas.
There's been years and years of research on what is it that makes people happy? What is that magic ingredient? Is it the job? Is it the circumstances of their life? Is it the house? Is it the relationship? Is it the money? Well, here's what I've learned. Here's what I've seen. The happiest people on the planet are not the people who have the most. They're the people who have learned to enjoy their life the most. You see, they're not waiting to be happy. They're not waiting for life to get better. They're not searching for happiness. They're enjoying this moment. Enjoyment is a quality you bring to the circumstances of your life. Happiness isn't in the circumstances because technically nothing really makes you happy. Everything can encourage you to be happy, but it can't make you happy. You have to do something too. If you're going to live a life you love and follow your joy, then you have to enjoy the life you're living now. Now, on that note, let's do an inquiry. This is an inquiry based on a sentence completion exercise.
I want you to try and do this. He does it very quickly, but try and just think what comes into your mind when he asks you to do this exercise, okay?
You're going to need a pen and paper. We're going to do it in real time. So here goes. I'd like you to complete this sentence 3 times. Number 1. One way I could make today even more enjoyable is... Fill in the blanks. Take a nice deep breath. Are you ready? Number 2. Another way that I could make this normal day even more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be is... And number 3. Another way that I could make today even more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be is... And now you're beginning to create a list. Now you're on your way. Now you can make today enjoyable.
Look out and better weather.
You're in your day. You're bringing your imagination, your creativity, your love to the day. And that's what makes our life enjoyable. So I hope you enjoy the exercise. It's one of my favorites. I come back to this one over and over again when I want to reset myself and remember that happiness isn't a search. It's a way of traveling.
Give me an idea of some of the things you wrote down when you were actually being asked to do that little exercise.
Speak to a friend.
Yes, that's great.
Remember to appreciate something beautiful you see. Just something in nature is often for me, you know, or yeah, a plant, a flower.
Nature, I think, is just full of wonderful little moments. If your mind's there, if you're living in the now, as he said, living in the moment.
Sing.
Sing, yes, that's a great thing.
Ian says a book you can't lay down.
There's something about happiness that transfers, that rubs off. And so we gravitate towards people that are giving off good vibe. And unhappy people, we can feel sorry for them, but sometimes we have a wee bit of dread as well. if we're going to be with people that we know are going to be complaining or moaning or that's not just one off. It's the mindset. Yeah, moaning minis. Here's some of the things that he believes are really important to do to begin to shift your mind into the left lobe, to grow your left frontal lobe and increase your happiness. It stops struggling to be happy. You know, it's I think it was one of the famous monks who said, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. And it's what was said just a moment ago. Don't feel guilty about the fact that you want to be happy. Everybody deserves to be happy. You're talking about the little baby being born. What does one want for a baby? To have a happy, good life. Happiness is our heritage. So fun and engagement each day. Some of the things you mentioned there, the things you like doing. I'm very keen on photography, so I always do something with photographs every day. Meditation. I've given you a little link to the meditation on the website as well, and it's just a 3-minute meditation, and it's lovely, and it's just about that sort of slowing down your whole system. And there's so much evidence now that it can help your heart, help your blood pressure, and just make you able to get up and go with whatever you've got to deal with. And also this last one is so important. Accept the gift of happiness. We don't have to struggle for it and deserve it. We all deserve to be happy. So that's the sort of message of Robert Holden's workshops. But it doesn't come just by listening to it. You actually need to begin to put this into your life, into practice in your life. And that's why it's important to remember, even when the times are their worst, to remember to do your meditation, to have your little pleasurable time. And so I think we can all learn from that to create little happy patches in every day that help to recharge our batteries and help to make our days better.
I'm going to say thank you very much, Val, because I think it's really important for people just to be aware of their own happiness. And I personally, I'm a bit of a fan of Michael Singer. I don't know if you've read his books. He wrote The Untethered Soul.
No.
And I love his books. And he's got a second book called The Surrender Experiment, which is also, it's a little bit esoteric, but the general principle is essentially to listen to your own voice, so that and almost to be an observer of life, so that you can't control what's around you. You can only control yourself and how you react to situations and your own happiness, and that you have to find it from within, essentially.
Yes.
But the general principle is also, it's based on meditation, and there's a real awareness of the self, and then being able to control, again, you, and not worrying about or being affected by your environment as such. Because at the end of the day, you can't control people. And it's quite funny, because people that you would also, I think, going to that would think are happy, like, for example, on social media, or for whatever reason, 3 of my friends who on social media look very happy just announced they're getting a divorce in COVID. And I just think as well, you can't, people who are generally unhappy tend to look at others and say they've got more than me, they're happier than me. But actually, I don't think that's the case. And I don't think you should look externally and compare yourself to others, because you really don't know what's going on in someone else's mind.
And people on Facebook and social media are presenting an image.
Yeah.
They're presenting an image of themselves. The reality may be quite different. And of course, they've discovered it's very bad for young people who often have insecure personalities, or personalities are forming, and they're more distressed now, more stressed and depressed young people, because they're comparing themselves all the time to others. You have to say, well, whatever lot you have, how are you going to deal with it? And how are you going to manage your day, so you build your own life and not look on everybody else as having something better than you.
I think so.
Yeah, that's.
And just before I joined this call, we just had a competition staring at each other to see who would not laugh. So I've got 3 children, and we are constantly laughing in this house. And we just finished our Don't Laugh competition, where of course everyone laughs. So yes, we are big subscribers to laughter here.
That's great. Well, I want to. The other thing that I don't think we did mention, somebody, did mention walking. We haven't time to show this just now, but do have a look at this video. It's Leslie Sansone. She's, again, it's one on the internet, and she does a lovely 15-minute walk. It's not a walk, it's just an exercise program for any age. And you can do it just in front of your laptop or your computer. You don't need very much space. It's just stepping forward and back, and it raises you. She's doing it with a group of people, and I've given it to so many of my students, and they say it's wonderful, because it doesn't matter what the weather is. You can put on this video and just spend 15 minutes moving, and at the end of it, you've generated the endorphins and made yourself feel alive again. You know, it's a wonderful thing for the winter. So you just need to click on the arrow there, and that will start going. But I want to let you see here the little film, which I think is here, on the 92-year-old doctor that I mentioned, that was in Good Morning America. And she was interviewed, this is July, and this is her talking about her life and she's 94 now. So, here it is.
we have this remarkable doctor inspiring so many. I was really honored to sit down with her. Dr. Melissa Freeman. She's dedicated more than 6 decades to practicing medicine, helping people in need, defying the odds. You are about to see that she is a real trailblazer.
My name is Dr. Melissa M. Freeman. I have been in the practice of internal medicine for more than 60 years. Could I have her chart, please? And I am 92 years of age.
Now, there is a vicious rumor going around about you that you're 92 years old. Can you confirm or deny that you are 92 years old and running us all ragged?
I am proud to say that I have lived for 92 years and I'm still moving.
Not only is she moving, she's thriving and still practicing medicine. Dr. Freeman owns and operates this private practice in Harlem.
How are you? Hello.
A business she's run for more than 37 years. What's a typical day for you, Doctor?
Well, I start in the morning working in my drug clinic and I complete that and then I take transportation and come here to my office.
Now, she doesn't shy away from public transportation. She embraces it, traveling on the New York City subway at least twice a week.
I'm a New Yorker, travel by subway, and if I have to get somewhere and the subway is the best way to get there, I will board the subway and take it.
But I hear, like, you keep up with everybody. You're tackling the steps.
Well, that's the only way you can get to the subways. The steps.
Dr. Freeman's grandfather, Albert B. Walker, was born a slave in Virginia. Once the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, Walker moved to New York City to start his family in the late 1800s. What he must think that his granddaughter became a doctor.
He was an amazing little man. He was a quiet man. He had 4 grandchildren, and we all grew up in his house.
And education was very important to your family.
My dad, who came from rural Alabama, and did not have the opportunity to get the education that he wanted to get. But he emphasized the importance of getting a high school and a college education.
Dr. Freeman splits her time at her private practice and a clinic treating people who are addicted to opioid drugs like heroin and oxycodone. You have been at the forefront of helping people fight that addiction that it's hard to put into words how it has gripped this nation. Can you help people understand this addiction?
Once addicted, it's a very difficult problem to release, and to see them straightening their lives up, it's a very moving thing.
No plans to retire?
Not that I can see in the near future, no.
What is your secret to not just your longevity, but your vitality?
You do what you have to do. You have to move on. As long as God gives you life and gives me strength, I have to keep doing it. And he has been very, very merciful for me.
So there we go. So I think I showed you the old version. If you go down there, you'll get this year's version of her. I wondered if she was still alive, so I checked it out, and she's actually back. She had a break during the COVID, and she's back again. So she's certainly an amazing lady with a life, a mindset that says, as long as I'm alive, I'm in this world to do something. In fact, it's one of the quickest ways to get happy is to stop thinking about yourself and go out and help somebody else. So I just want to show you here quickly, and I'll stop, is how to get into our classes. So our Zoom classes are, I've given you click here to view the classes. Now this is a Zoom Russian class. This is the teacher up here, and they're all beginners, and they're all doing something, and you can see they're looking happy. They're enjoying themselves, and our tutors do try and make sure that people leave their classes feeling they have been together and they have had some sort of communal experience together. If you click on this, you'll see we have all these classes: lunchtime talks, creative art. Some of the art teachers have set up little studios in their kitchen, and they give demonstrations, and they get the student back. One of the art teachers is also teaching Chinese cookery because she's a Chinese girl, and so she gets them take their laptops into the kitchen and cooking and then tasting. There you are. There you have it. You're in the the Centre for Lifelong Learning catalogue, and all you need to do is, you don't need to log in at this stage. You just need to click. Say you click on, well, let's say, well, here I'll give you a surprise here: photography and digital imaging. Then you click on the thing, and up comes I have a class on making the most of your photos. You click on that and you get the description, and all you need to do is sign in, log in or sign in, and you book your class online. So it's as simple as that, and that is on the website there. So you've got all the details you need there. So any questions? That's I've just put everything on there. So you've got the meditation, you've got the walking, you've got the little clips from the Happiness Project. So you've got lots of follow-up material there. So that's it there. LifelongScotland.co.uk. I hope it's given you some ideas to be happier and enjoy life. Whatever happens to you, we don't know how long we've got in this life, but I believe in trying to make sort of every day a good day. You never know when, especially nowadays, you never know it's going to be the last.
Thank you very much.
Not at all. That was a pleasure.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
can I just say thank you before you go on behalf of the E-Club. I thought that was really enlightening, and see the fact about happiness lights up the prefrontal lobe. That picture will stay in my head.
Good.
You know, I'm feeling happy. I'm all lit up. I think that's really made a difference, or that will make a difference to me going forward. But what I also wanted to say was what came over to me was that you can't always rely on other people to provide your happiness.
No,
you have
not
to
at
find
all.
what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And if what makes you happy can be something you share, then that makes you even happier. And then, so it kind of comes from within. It's up to you to find it. And that's how you feel grateful, as Judith and me were talking about, and like hopeful for the future, because we're, as I say, we're going into lockdown.
Yeah.
We need to have things that make us happy.
Yes,
But can I just mention one wee thing, right?
Yeah,
So I'm going to plug a book, but it's not my book, right, Nee? It's not my book. It's a book called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. It's not about happiness. It's a little bit motivational. It takes 10 minutes to read, but it has little sayings in it that you read and you go, yeah. For example, what do you want to be when you grow up? Asked the mole. Kind, said the boy. So that kind of ties in with what we're saying. If you're kind, unselfish, then you're more likely to be happy. There's lots of things in this book that are just wee things you go, oh yeah, that's made me feel better. So The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, recommend it for Christmas.